What is going on, everyone? Today we're about the first step that you have to take when you're starting your very own adult day center. But first, before we get into it, before I share all the secrets, before I give you the first step, I gotta hide this thing. You gotta like, comment, subscribe, show a little love. You know, make sure Dre feels it. We gotta make sure Dre feels the love. Did you do it? All right, let's get into it, guys. My name is Chris Shannon, the founder and CEO of Active Age Daytime Senior Care. And yesterday I was actually on a phone call. These lovely ladies are in the process of starting their own adult day center, and they were going through what do we do? And they're, kind of sharing a story of like all the different things that they have done and things that they've considered. And they're, kind of like at this, point where they don't know what the next step really is. So we kind of had to reverse engineer everything. And we, towards the end of the conversation, after we kind of dove into a little bit of everything, we realized is that the first thing that anyone must do when they're planning to start their own adult day centers, they gotta first define the vision for what they want to create. Like, they have to know, am I trying to throw a Hail Mary? Do I want this to be massive? Do I wanna have a 10,000, a 12,000? Do I wanna have a multi-location center? Or do I just wanna have like a nice 4,000, 6,000 square foot center that is going to help me quit my job and pursue the American dream of entrepreneurship and be able to support my family comfortably, but not have to bet the farm or risk it all. Like, what do I want to do? You have to define this vision before you can do anything else. Because if you don't at least define your aspiration, your goals, your objective, then we can't figure out what the first step is, because we need to know that first. That's the first step. So when you figure that part of it out, how big do you want to get? Or and the thing is, maybe you don't know 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what your aspirations might be then, but what are they today? What can you see this being today? Let's use that as our goalpost. Let's put that flag in the sand and work towards that goal, okay? So you say, all right, I wanna open a 6,000 square foot adult day center. Okay, great. Now, how much money do you have and how much experience do you have owning or operating or running a business, okay? Because these two buckets, see, look, I got a bucket, a money bucket and an experience bucket. These two buckets are going to potentially have an effect on the steps that happen next. Okay, because you might have this aspiration. You need to define it. I don't care what, right now, we're not gonna do anything else until you define it, okay? No, but I need you to really think about, okay, what do I want? How big do I want the center to be? How many people am I thinking about caring for? What type of income do I wanna earn? Write all these things down, figure this stuff out. Try to understand, the size of this operation that you're trying to create, the one for you, okay? Now, we're gonna figure out, how much money do you have? Are you flat broke, but you got big dreams? But you only got a Bud Light budget? Or do you actually have money? Okay, obviously that's gonna affect a lot of things, right? And then experience. Have you operated a business before? Have you been in a leadership position? Have you run an organization? Maybe you've never owned your own business, but maybe you've been kind of an entrepreneur inside of another business and you have familiarity with, the numbers and the finances and what it takes to lead a team. Or maybe you've always just been kind of an employee, a W-2 wage, or an hourly wage earner, and you've never necessarily led a team. You've always been kind of in entry-level positions, but you got big dreams and you want to go after it, right? These are just things that look, there's nothing wrong. It's just a matter of trying to figure out where you're at, okay? Because if you have a lot of money, but you got no experience, then you can always hire someone that has the experience that can get you caught up. But if you got no money and you got no experience, then we need to start small and we need to take baby steps, okay? But if you got a lot of experience, then you just gotta find someone with money, right? So these are just things you have to take into consideration once you've defined your vision, right? So we know what you want. Once we know what you want, now we gotta figure out, do you got money? You got experience, and then now we can kind of figure out the next step, right? So got no money, got no experience. And when I say no money, maybe you have 5 grand, maybe you have 10 grand, maybe you have 15 grand. I don't know. But maybe you're not at a point where you have 100 grand or 200 grand to risk, or you don't know people that have that kind of money. So the money that you do have, you have to be very conscientious of, because it's not gonna go very far. So you gotta use it wisely, right? So long story short, funds are a little low, experience is a little low, and I'm trying to get into this field. What do? This is where you should then be, say your like defined goal, your defined vision is like this 6,000 square foot space that can accommodate 50 to 60 people per day, that does $1 million to 1.5 million in revenue, that can help you take home 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 a year, depending on how you set it up, right? Say that's your vision for it, that's your goal, okay? Well, if you don't have the money and you don't have the experience, it might be hard to achieve that goal. So what you might have to do first is you might have to say, okay, well, if I can't quite get there on the first step, maybe I can scale the operation back down to getting my feet wet, where I'm taking less risk and something I can get off the ground and prove to myself that I can market a business, that I can run a business, that I can lead a team, that I can manage the financials, and that I can learn these things without risking everything, okay? And so that being said, you may like say, all right, well, maybe instead of a 6,000 square foot location, because I got like 20 grand or 30 grand that I can pull from, which means if you have like 10, 20, 30 grand, remember there's a program called the SBA 7A loan, and you can borrow up to 90% of the amount of money you would need for whatever business you're trying to start, okay? So if that business costs 100 grand to start, then as long as you have 10,000 at the very minimum, you could borrow 100,000. If the business doesn't cost 200,000, at the very minimum, you could borrow 20,000. Now on the high end, depending on the bank, maybe it's 20 to 40,000 to borrow 200,000. But again, this is gonna depend on the bank. It's gonna depend on your credit score. It's gonna depend on a lot of factors, okay? But the reality of it is that you still might have this access to this SBA capital. If you only have 10, 15, 20, 30 grand, you may still have access to more capital. You just need to understand how you're gonna spend it. And if you're gonna go start a 6,000 square foot space, it's gonna be hard to start a 6,000 square foot space with just 200 grand. By the time you think about construction costs and lease payments and all this other stuff that's gonna go into it, it's just gonna be too much. So you might have to start out with a smaller location if you want to baby step into that larger location, right? That might mean, okay, now, once we've defined the vision, we want to get here, this is the goalpost, but because of our experience, because of our dollars, our funding, maybe we have to scale it back, knowing that that's where we're going to go someday, but in the meantime, we got to scale it back. So then now we need to understand what size location can we truly afford? Because a 2,000 square foot location is going to cost a lot less than a 6,000 square foot location to lease. So I need to see like what is the cost of renting or leasing something like this in my area? What is the average going rate for per square foot? So we need to understand what that cost is, because that's going to be one of your larger expenses that you're going to have every single month, so you have a place to operate your business. Number two is the type of adult day center that you're gonna create, right? Is it gonna be social, medical? And then in your state, what are the rules and regulations between the two? Like, do the rules and the regulations affect the cost of starting? You might find that going to a medical model really doesn't cost that much more, and it doesn't really have that much more overhead that you might need. Or you might find that going to the medical model costs a lot more, and you may have to forego that for now in order to at least get the process started. So understanding that. Now we're gonna create projections for this specific size of location. And then based off of those projections that we're gonna create for 2 years, taking into consideration everything, top line revenue on the low end, on the high end, and then your rent on the low end, on the high end, and then all of your other costs, your labor costs and all those things on the low end, on the high end, what do you project over 2 years if you build out that projections? Then with those projections, we can kind of understand what our budget's gonna be, because we're gonna have startup costs, we're gonna have ongoing working capital needs, we're gonna have construction costs, so there's gonna be all this things that go into the budget. And then based on all of this stuff, you can finally do the one thing that everyone's been telling you to do. And this is what we realized in this call last night, is that everyone's like, you gotta make a business plan, you gotta make a business plan. But you can only make a business plan once you've defined your vision for the size of the location, for the type of center that you wanna open. So now once I've defined that, and then I can reverse engineer these couple items, now I can take that and say, okay, step one is to open a 2,000 square foot space, and this is how we're gonna do that, based on these numbers and these calculations and these projections and this budget. And then the step after that would be, maybe in the future, once this is all set up, then we'll go to, our goalpost of opening a 6,000 square foot center. And then we'll define that at some future point in time, but we know that we're gonna take a baby step first. And now that we know that we're gonna take this baby step, we can figure out the business plan, because once we figure out the size of the location and the type of adult day center we want to open and the projections and the budgets and all of these things that we have and this kind of vision for where we're going, then the business plan is really just the marketing components that make that up, that are going to explain how you're going to do that, how you're going to get there. Who are you going to hire to consult you? How are you going to get funding? Is it through the bank? Is it through a partner? Is it a collective effort of other, kind of multiple partners putting in money together? Like, what is the way that we're going to fund it? And then where are we going to get the experience? Are we going to hire someone to help us out? Or are we going to work with someone that has a course? Are we going to bring someone in to just kind of give us the blueprint, give us the the SOPs, the standard operating procedures, and the manual, and those types of things. So anyways, I know this is a little bit longer, but I think it's just important because some people don't know where to start. They don't know where to start. And everyone around them is telling them to make a business plan. I'm like, I get that, but what does that mean? So number one is define your vision for the type of business and the size of business that you want to create. And then let's reverse engineer if that's possible, depending on your finances and depending on your experience. Even if you don't have a lot of experience and you don't have finances, you can still start this process. You can still do it. It's just a matter of whether or not you're gonna take the time to learn from others. And if you don't have the money and you don't have the experience, it's gonna take you longer. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just you don't have the money to buy back the time and you don't have the experience to go get the money, okay? So the reality of it is it's gonna take a little longer, and that's okay, because we all start somewhere. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this provided a little bit of direction as far as getting started when opening up your very own adult day center. Thank you so much for joining me on this YouTube channel, and all the support and the love and all that stuff. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Join us for our monthly webinars. Go to our private Facebook group. Check out all of our YouTube videos, and we'll see you on the next one. Oh, and if you want to learn more about opening your very own franchise, I know a guy, he's great. activeagecare.com/franchise to learn more. We'll see you on the next one. Peace. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me. If you'd like to learn how to open your own adult daycare center, go to adcpro.com. If you'd like the latest business tips, click here, and make sure you subscribe to our channel. Click here. We'll see you guys next time.